بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our reflections on Surah Al-Hujuraat. Yesterday we talked about verses 11 and 12. And we said that inshallah we talk more about the verse 12 when it talks about backbiting. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن إن بعض الظن إثم ولا تجسسوا ولا يغتب بعضكم بعضا أيحب أحدكم أن يأكل لحم أخيه ميتا فكرهتموه واتقوا الله إن الله تواب رحيم. So, as we said yesterday, there are three instructions in this ayah. One is about necessity of avoiding bad assumptions about people. We should avoid being suspicious. When someone says something or does something, there can be many different interpretations. When it comes to believers, as long as there is a chance to interpret it in a good way, you should never interpret it in a bad way. Or if people come and tell you that this believer has said this or has done this, as long as you have even a little chance to have positive opinion about that moment, you should not listen to them. Even if 50 people, as hadith say, come and swear by Allah, but you try not to judge based on what they say. Yes, sometimes it's crystal clear, sometimes there is evidence, there's proof. Then, in that case, you may have to accept, but still you don't have right to spread it. So this is why in ayah, the idea of avoiding bad assumption and backbiting are mentioned together. So we should try to avoid as much as possible suspicion about people. And sometimes people ask me about what should we do when we see there are around people who may not be honest. And if we are not careful, we might be deceived. For example, suppose you want to marry. Okay, if you are not opening your eyes, if you are not careful, if you're not listening to what people tell you about someone, then there is a chance that later you may realize that that person was really a bad person. And unless you are very carefully and with some kind of suspicion check someone, you will not find the problems. My answer is that you don't need to be suspicious. You should be precautious. There's a difference between being precautious and being suspicious. If you are precautious, means you are not naive, you are opening your eyes and ears, but objectively look into the evidence. It's someone who is precautious. But if I am suspicious, from the beginning I have a negative attitude. Someone who is suspicious is not neutral, wants to prove that there is a problem. Someone was working in an organization and he was responsible for inspection. I told him, you have to be very careful, because there is a chance that those who are inspectors become happier to find people who are guilty. And this little by little may create in you desire to find out guilty people. And this can make you lose your objectivity. As inspector, you must always be happy if after spending tens of hours, you don't find any reason to say that this person was guilty. If you become happy. But if you become happy when you prove people are guilty, then psychologically you lose your objectivity, because you always want to say to your boss, I found this many number of people who are guilty. This is not good. A police should be happy if all night goes around and finds no thief. Should not feel sad, we spent all these nights outside and we didn't catch even one thief. If there is no thief, good for you. You shouldn't think, my time is wasted if I didn't manage to find someone. And then this automatically can create a problem, because then you would try to take people who are innocent and create some evidence and say this person was guilty, and we managed to get it. So you don't need to be suspicious, but be precautious. So difference between su'udhan and ihtiyat. Okay. وَلَا تَجَسَّسُوا, and don't investigate. Don't try to find out what people do in their private life, even if they have some problems in their private life. As long as they observe modesty in the public, we should respect that and we should appreciate that. What Islam wants from us is that we start sorting out things from surface and then go down. First, we have to make sure that in the public no sin is committed. In the public everyone is respected. Then little by little we go to the corners of their home. But for public we have certain policies, and for homes we have another type of policies. We have for public our system of al-amru bil-ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar. If needed, we have police, we have court, we have government. But when it goes to the houses of people, then police doesn't have right to interfere, government doesn't have right to interfere. It's by awakening their sense of taqwa, their consciousness, their alertness, their responsibility to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and help of family. Family can do amr ma'ruf, but I cannot do amr ma'ruf to someone if I know that he in his home in private is doing something. It is not my right to interfere and investigate. And if actually the legitimate judge finds out that I am, investigating and interfering in people's private life, I am also supposed to be punished. So, لا تجسسوا ولا يغتب بعضكم بعضا. None of you should backbite the other. Do you like to eat the flesh of your dead brother? I think there is nothing more awful than eating flesh of someone, especially flesh of your brother, especially when that person is dead. So this is the ugliness of ghaibah. And this is not just a kind of metaphorical expression. This is the reality of ghaibah in the kingdom of Allah. In Malakut, this is the reality of ghaibah. If you can see behind the veil, you would see someone who is backbiting is doing exactly eating of the flesh of his dead brother. We have a story that two people had nothing to eat, and they asked Salman to go and talk to the Prophet and take something for them. Salman went to the Prophet, and Prophet referred him to Osama, and Osama was responsible for treasure. So said, go and check with Osama. Salman went to Osama. Osama said, I don't have anything to give you. So Salman went back to those two people and said, they didn't give me anything. They started backbiting Salman. They said, if we send Salman even to, for example, well, which is full of water, he comes back, for example, without having anything. You know, he comes back, in Farsi we say, you know, like thirsty. So then those two who backbited Salman went to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Prophet said, I see in you signs of eating flesh of a person. They said, we haven't eaten meat at all. We were hungry. Rasulullah said, yes, you have eaten the flesh of Salman and Osama. So this is ghaiba. So it's not exaggeration, it's not a metaphor, it's a reality, but we cannot just see. And we have other stories you might have heard about one of the wives of the Prophet. Also the Prophet told her the same. So this is a reality. I would like to mention a hadith from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam that Ayatollah Makarim Shirazi has mentioned in Tafsir Namuna. The hadith is in Wasa'il al-Shia. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, Man rawa ala mu'minin riwayatan yuridu biha shaynahu wa hadma muru'atihi liyasquta min a'yunin nas. If someone relays and narrates something about a believer, and the intention is that he wants to damage the reputation of that believer, he wants to damage the respect that people have so that he drops from the eyes of the people. Means people have no respect for him. Doesn't say he tells lies. Doesn't say he fabricates stories. You can imagine what happens if someone fabricates a story. But just to spread something which might be right, might be true, might be correct, but can damage reputation of a mu'min. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, أخرجه الله من ولايته إلى ولاية الشيطان. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would remove him from his guardianship, because mu'mineen are under guardianship of Allah, under the protection and support and guidance of Allah. Allahu waliyyul ladhina amanu. When you damage other mu'mineen's fame and reputation, Allah sends you away from his wilaya and says, now shaitan is your wali. But what is very moving and very alarming is that Imam Sadiq says, فَلَا يَقْبَلُهُ الشَّيْطَانِ. Even shaitan does not accept such verse. Someone who is dismissed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even shaitan does not have any interest in him. And unfortunately, you see, ghaiba is not uncommon. I don't want to say it's common, inshallah it's not common, but at least it's not something rare, unfortunately. It's not something exceptional. May Allah help us. What is ghiba? What is backbiting? There are many, many hadiths, and our fuqaha, our mujtahideen, they have discussed this in details in fiqh. But if you want something accessible, for example, Ayatollah Dasqib in Major Sins has discussed this, and it's accessible in English also online. Just one hadith. الغيبة أن تقول في أخيك ما ستره الله عليه. Ghiba is to say something about your brother or sister in faith that Allah has covered, Allah has hidden. It means that he has not done this in the public, and public are not aware of it, but you are informing people about this. This is ghiba. أما الأمر الظاهر فيه مثل الحدة والعجلة فلا. But if something is very obvious, for example, someone is very hasting, always rushing, and everyone knows that he is hasting. Or someone is very angry, and everyone knows that he easily gets angry. If something is known by the public, to say it is not ghiba. Of course, if you say to damage him, then it is haram for another reason. Because there are few things. Sometimes something is not ghiba, but it still can be annoying a mu'min, iza'ul mu'min, or can be damaging reputation of mu'min, again is haram. But if it is public information and you don't have bad intention and it's not going to affect the reputation of that person, so then that is not ghiba, and that can be something which is exempted. But if you are saying something which is not known to people, or you want to hurt him, you want to annoy him, for example, maybe someone has a problem in his body and everyone is watching that. Okay, so this is not ghiba. But if I say this in order to make mockery of him, as we said, لا يسخر قوم من قوم, this is haram. So not to be ghiba doesn't mean that it is not haram. It can be haram for another reason. But basically, what falls under the category of ghiba is something which is not known, something which is not public. وَالْبُهْتَانِ أَن تَقُولَ مَا لَيْسَ فِيهِ. Buhtan means false accusation. This is different from ghiba. Buhtan means you say something that he is free from. He doesn't have that problem. Sometimes people say, I say this even in front of himself, so this is not ghiba. This is not good reason. Even if you say it in front of him, still you cannot say this in his absence when those people don't know. Even in his presence, if you say it's not ghiba, but it is hurting mu'min, it's damaging reputation of mu'min, still it's a problem. So to say in his presence is not ghiba, but it can be haram. Can I, in front of other people, come and tell people what you have done, for example, in private? I cannot. So if something is not qualified as ghiba, it doesn't mean it is not haram. Plus, what is important is that you don't say something with intention of damaging. That's the worst thing. Intention of damaging is worst thing, but even without intention, if that person is damaged, again is a problem. What should we do if, God forbid, we have committed ghiba? Now we are in these nights and days of months of Ramadan trying to ask for repentance and for forgiveness what should I do if I have committed ghaibah? Ghaibah has two aspects. One is right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is haqqullah. Is haqqullah. Another aspect is haqqun nas, right of people. If, na'udhu billah, someone doesn't say prayer, doesn't fast, it is haqqullah only. It's not haqqun nas. But if someone does ghaibah, does tuhma, I don't know, doesn't give people their money, takes away their money, these are haqqullah and haqqun nas. We don't have any haqqun nas unless it is haqqullah as well. There is no right for people disregarded unless Allah's right is also disregarded, because Allah wants us to observe people's rights. So any haqqun nas is haqqullah as well. But there are some issues which are only haqqullah and not haqqun nas. The things which are haqqullah are more easily forgiven. You ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you are sincere, if you fix as much as possible, if there is qadha, there is a remedy, there is a compensation, you do it, inshallah you will be forgiven. But haqqun nas is not that easy. I should get the pleasure of that person as well. I can cry day and night, but if I've damaged someone's reputation, he must forgive me. So our fuqaha here have discussion, because this is also a fiqhi issue, this is a ijtihadi issue. This is not less important than issues about wuzu and tahara. It's a very important issue. One issue here, one mas'ala here is, if I have, na'udhu billah, committed ghibah, do I need to go and ask for forgiveness? Which means then I have to tell him that I have committed ghibah. Is it necessary or not? Some fuqaha say you have to go and ask for forgiveness. But some then add, if this is going to create another problem, so just keep it very general. Say, please forgive me, or please, if I have said something, but don't say all the details, and don't say that you have committed ghaibah, because then this can create problem, plus your own reputation. So some fuqaha say, if he doesn't know, or if it's going to create problem, just keep it very general. But if there is a chance to say and not creating problem, especially if he has awareness, he's aware that you have said this, then you have to go and ask for forgiveness. I have done ghibah and has reached him the news. So I have to tell him that, please forgive me. If that person is not available, for example, has died, or I have no access to him, then you have to do something good on his behalf. Ask Allah to forgive him, pray for him, give sadaqah for him, so that inshallah on the day of judgment, Allah would please him on your behalf. If someone is really regretting and remorseful and has no way to fix haqqun nas, then Allah can help him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make them pleased if you have really done your best. But of course you may lose in this process something. Maybe some of your hasanat will go to that person. Maybe something happens to you. But with Allah, there is solution for every problem. And if you really, sincerely regret, and you cannot do anything to please that person, ask Allah to forgive you and forgive him, do something good for that person. So, everyone should ask his marja about whether I need to inform and ask for forgiveness or not. But basically, this is the range of views that we have in fiqh. That because it is haqqun nas, forgiveness of that person is also needed. If he is aware, you have to ask him for forgiveness. If he is not aware, then you have to see what is your marja saying, especially if it's going to create problem or it's going to damage your reputation. Inshallah, tomorrow we will talk about verse 12, which is very important, about relations between humanity. Ya ayyuhan nas inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qaba'ila lita'arafu inna akramakum indallah atqakum. This is a very important verse, and at least we have to speak one session about this verse. O mankind, we have created you from a man and woman, Adam and Eve. We are all children of the same parents. And we made you into nations and tribes so that you know each other and you come to mutual recognition. Ta'arafu. Not that you fight, not that you think you are better than others. Truly, in the sight of Allah, the most honorable are the most pious. Truly, Allah is aware and informed about all the details. Inshallah, we talk about this tomorrow. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.